And hello, we're back in Glass Onion Radio for the 6th week now, and this week's guest was going to be Arlo Tone, but he can't make it today because of his voice has disappeared. So in his shoes today, we've pulled in a guest that was going to be on next week or the week after, and it's Pete Doff.
Good afternoon.
And we have you in here. So what we doing today, Ben Pete? What are you?
I thought we'd jump through some tracks that, impressed me one way or another, or possibly influenced me, or
we've got them all here.
Or just to irritate people.
Oh, well, we haven't got Stu yet. I think he's coming back from London. He'll be here at some point. I think he's hungover as usual. So to kick off your playlist today, do you want to speak about this track?
I do indeed, yeah. It's Johnny Kidd and the Pirates, Shakin All Over. Mm-hmm. In my mind, it's the very first British rock and roll song. And
right.
Apart from that, I mean, when I heard it growing up all the time, and I assumed it was American, because it doesn't sound English, because a lot of the English stuff just sounded like Tommy Steele. And I'm sure Baker will completely argue with me on this point, and I know we have before, but England was crap at rock and roll, it all very Tin Pan Alley, Larry Palms, Johnny Eager and Johnny Gentle. It's I
think we spoke about
that. You know what I mean? It just sounds so kind of like Sunday at the Palladium. It's just not rock and roll, and Shakin' All Over just blew me because it's got a swagger and a groove and it doesn't sound English.
It's got that sort of I think it's got like that tremolo sort of.
Yeah, it does something, whereas sorry, I nearly swore there.
That's alright.
Tommy Steele and like Adam Faith, and it's just like so kind of like pedestrian and twee, isn't it? And Shakin' All Over, it just sounds like a whorehouse, That's how it should be,
Yeah, I agree, and I think that I've heard this song sort of pop up on sort of some adverts of the last sort of 5 years or so.
Which is a shame, isn't it?
But you say that's a shame. I mean, would you say it was a shame that it's getting an air in and it's showing younger people
I'm just
music?
Being kind of like
elitist,
grabby, elitist, and it's mine, not yours,
It's okay. It's okay to be grabby. I'm like some things. It's okay.
But no, you're right. The world needs to know,
Okay, so should we drop it in? I'll let you.
Only if you dance with me during the play.
Absolutely. Put your coat down. So, okay, introduce us.
Shakin' All Over.
And we are back in Glass Onion Radio. It's show 6. I did actually forget to say we opened up with Kaleo as taken from the TV show on HBO Vinyl, which if any of you have seen it, great show. Scorsese and Mick Jagger done it. Mick Jagger's son's in it, and they sort of go through like the sort of the running of like a record label throughout the 70s. I've not finished it, but I love it. It's brilliant. And then we had the Kinks' "Stop Your Sobbing." And funny, we have Pete Doff here talking today and giving us his opinions on music, and he's giving us his playlist. I'm stumbling all over my words today.
Do you want a Palmer Violet?
We got the old Swizzler bumper bag in here.
I hate Palmer Violets. They smell like nannies, don't they?
I don't mind them.
Wait, you like smelling nannies, you mean?
I do. Yeah, because I didn't really have one, but
you can have mine.
So we have. When we played the Kinks, I mean, like I was saying early this week, there's a bucket list thing of mine I wanted to do. I never really wanted to sort of play any covers as such, or be in a tribute band or be in them pub cover groups where they earn money and that. But I did want to start a Kinks night, so we can
pay homage.
Yeah, we'll pay homage to the great songwriting of the Kinks, and Pete's been kind enough to say he'll join in on
absolutely,
that.
Absolutely.
So we'll get back to you on that on later shows about when that will be and who's involved and whatnot.
You can't not love the Kinks,
You can't.
There's got to be some point where you go, yeah, that's magnificent.
It surprises me how many people don't know how much Kinks music they know. Because it's just, I'm going to write a playlist of their stuff that I want to be able to share out between people and do. But you'd be surprised how many people go, oh my god, that's the Kinks. And to me, that's surprising. So we're going to have to put that out there and have a big night together, because we don't have the Square anymore, but we do have this now club called Club Foot that Kasabian opened through Adam Smith of the Black Wax Show. down at the Burnt Mill School. So hopefully something comes of that quite quickly, and maybe we can play it there or something like that. And so if you're interested, keep following on this show or like me on Facebook or something like that. Just if you're interested, get in touch.
And get involved.
Or get involved, yes. So we opened up Pete Doff's playlist there with Johnny Kidd and the Pirates, Shakin all over, which he said about. And then we had Jack Stutronic, The Responsible.
That was a cool track, yeah.
It's all French, but what groove?
Yeah, I was digging that.
And we were saying, it's probably taken a lot of influence from sort of the Velvet Underground. You even said like Satisfaction yourself. And then we went on to David Bowie, which is a really illustrious subject for me and Queen Bitch there.
I have to state my case. I'm not a fan, so I have that perspective.
I'm a fan to a certain degree. I mean, like when we played sort of Jack Stutronic there to Less Responsible, and then David Bowie, Queen Bitch. The idea I was going to try and get in there is it's kind of like the Velvet Undergroundy sort of thing. And you know how inspirational they really are. Last week I spoke about David Bowie being on one edge of the corner, one corner of the triangle that made the triangle of rock and roll, which was Lou Reed, Iggy Pop, and then you had David Bowie. David Bowie famously said to a journalist that had come at him and said, "Oh, you know, you're not a genius. You're just robbing things from Iggy Pop and Lou Reed." And he said, "What's genius about that is knowing which bits to nick." And I got annoyed about that.
There's a fine line between influence and half-inching, isn't there?
I wouldn't have minded if you had just kept with it. You know, like how people like Paul Weller, they take great soul tracks and they change them or whatever, but they kind of stay in the same vein the whole way. Same as with like Noel Gallagher and Oasis, they kind of take like the classic rock and roll thing and stay in their own sort of curve over there. David Bowie, like we were talking earlier this week, he kind of is like a pestilent child who you give him like ice cream and he goes, "Oh, I don't want ice cream because Jack's got chocolate. Oh, I don't want chocolate now because Jim's got jelly." And he kind of chopped and changed so much, he kind of become a bit like an actor.
Yeah, I guess.
It was kind of like people go, "Oh, he's hidden by his predecessors," but I go, "Oh, it's David Bowie." But if you really open it up and have a look at it and go, what was he doing? He was just jumping from ship to ship to ship to ship, right? And he kind of hid behind the fact that he was, open brackets, evolving. And I didn't see his evolution like the Beatles evolved.
Right,
I kind of see it
there's like a linear...
Yeah.
He
didn't really do that because I think the people that really made David Bowie great was people like Mick Ronson, Brian Eno, loads of people, Iggy Pop, like all these people that he just worked with, and then even to the degree of like Mick Jagger, for God's sake.
Well, I was going to say, my oldest sister went to see Bowie in the Ziggy period, and so it was around me as a kid, but like I say, my kid's perspective was I didn't find it very accessible, like the glam rock of the time, like T-Rex and Sweet, it was all very, very accessible, it's quite simple and basic, so I really didn't have a view, but if I look at it as a timeline, Mitch, I mean, I'd rather, when I hear Stooges' Raw Power...
Of course.
I can't listen to, like, what Bowie's doing because this is like the Razor's Edge. And
but did you hear Bowie's mixes of like Iggy stuff? It was really...
Was that the muddy one?
It was just no. It was just.
But then again, I don't want that necessarily been his fault. Knowing the Stooges, they were probably all jacked up and you know what I mean, turning up all the recordings themselves and making a mess of it.
I think that's what made the Stooges really great. I mean, we've spoke about this because we're both massive Stooges fans.
Yes, absolutely.
That rawness and the dirtiness made the Stooges so fantastic.
It's so filthy.
And Bowie come in and then Bowie kind of just went, "Oh, let me look at this." It's like you didn't need looking at. Why are you poking your fingers in? And it's kind of like, right, stay over there. This guy went from being a hippie, then a mod, then he was a dandy, then he went glam, and then he sort of turned into like, I mean, I can't even keep up how many names he bloody had.
Maybe neither could he, But funnily enough, I did hear Laughing Gnome in the car the other day. It kind of jarred me when I heard it. I was like, oh my good God.
Well, I mean, like, I'd like to hear, like, because I know what your opinions are, but I'd like for you to share your whole thing about the Princess Di thing. I mean, that's brilliant. I agree.
It's... I suppose for some people it becomes almost like a hysteria, I can't think of any other way to describe it, really. I mean, the My Lady Di kind of syndrome, as I call it. Like one day they're slagging the person off, and then, like, sadly they die, and then next thing you know, it's like...
The Great British Press.
Oh my God. And it's like, that we've got the world's worst press, bar none. I think you know.
Of course, yeah.
It's truly shocking and dreadful, you know. And they pump these things up, I guess. But no, like I said, I was never a Bowie fan, so it's a hard pill for me to swallow. Seeing him every day.
He's posted everywhere. We'll get absolutely lynched. There's a lynch mob out there now.
I love that track, Scary Monsters, though.
You know
that was
what?
a really good track. I love them.
As far as like my sort of like Baker last week was talking about the Bowie moment, you know, and my Bowie moment was
I suppose he's got so many, hasn't he? So
of course, but he was like Baker was saying his Bowie moment wasn't a banger. It was the David Jones from last week.
Oh, the 60. Yeah, I've heard some of that. Yeah,
but my Bowie moment, you know, my dad would probably say that Bowie was his favourite artist. So growing up, I listened to Bowie through the years, and he had like the Spiders from Mars record, and it had postal tape around it. It had been battered, it had been taken to parties and all sorts. And I remember listening to that album, and I loved it so much. But later on, I've realised that Mick Ronson is the reason that album was so great. But Suffragette City, even a Hunky Dory album, you know, Diamond Dogs were great. I liked it, but the thing is, when I talk about like David Bowie and I think about his career, there's like a 10-year gap, right? And it's the 70s. If you look at everything he produced in the 70s, it's everything he's really known for. Everything.
I guess, yeah.
Like literally everything he's known for. So if we're talking about from sort of 80 up to when he died, what was it, January last year, I think?
Yeah.
What did he really was capable of? And then, you look at that's a good near sort of.
Well, you know, he deserves his place. I mean, my sister's going to lynch me because she was such a fan, you know. But no, he deserves his place. I'm not knocking him for that. But
he deserves his place, but he does need. People need to sort of. I don't know. Get real with it.
I think I suppose it's the emotional fallout of it all. But
if you love David Bowie so much in the public eye, and you know, and he's this you know, what stops like people like Lou Reed having that, you know?
Well, yeah, I guess it's also the fact that I'm such a fundamental atheist that I've never created gods in my own mind. You know, people I adore or, you know, influence me or admire. I never set them up as a god in the first place because I don't believe in them, you know? So I guess that's probably why I sound irreverent about things. But, you know.
I love that quote, actually. I might have to use that somewhere down the line.
I've got some ruder ones, but we'll save them for after the show, eh?
Okay, so we're going to crack on with the playlist.
Okay.
Your playlist, your lovely playlist you brought in. And next up we have James Brown, Shout and Shimmy. So
at the end of the day, I mean, me and you can, well, we really have, but we yarn on because we love music so much, you know. But, you know, when I get, you know, sucked into great lyrics or great grooves and whatnot, ultimately you've got to remember you're meant to bloody dance as well, you know. And James Brown's he's Mr. Dynamite, you know, and they don't call him that for nothing. And I love that late 50s, late 60s period.
You're showbiz, that guy.
Oh, and you see him perform, it's 110% all the time. But
absolutely.
As you said about Bowie, I don't like James Brown from the late 60s to the 70s when he goes funk. That's not my thing.
Right, okay.
I like that late 50s to late 60s where it's that weird jazz soul hybrid thing going on.
Okay, cool. I'm excited to listen to this next track.
The Who did cover this, actually, I think. And
I think they did.
And Roger Daltrey, bless him, was never going to be a soul singer, really. You know, I mean, I love the early Who, but his vocals are nowhere near like Marriott's, you know. But who's on?
No one.
Indeed. Thank you. End of subject.
Okay, so do you want to introduce the next song?
Yeah, this is James Brown and the Famous Flames and Shout and Shimmy. Dancing shoes required.
Oh, hi. We are back in the
sponsored by Twiglets.
Yeah, sorry, got a mouthful of Twiglets here. Stu's just turned up.
Late come up. So I got stuck behind a lady at a cash point. She like took forever. I think she thought it was like an arcade machine. She was trying to get the high score.
Do you want number Cass, was it?
Yeah, it might have been.
So, like last week, we're having like a bit of a Wi-Fi crisis here. I'm just trying to get us back online. But in the meantime, that was James Brown, and that was Shocking Blue and Send Me Postcards. Let me just try and get back on, because this ain't going to go well otherwise. So what have you been doing, Stu? Where have you been? What's the
I went to see Sean Clark's band last night at the Nambo Cup.
Oh, the Black Mambas.
Yeah, and then I got invited to some recording studio. There was like a private party there, and I had to pretend to be someone called Simon As If. But I got in. It was fun. Drinking till like 5 in the morning.
How the other half live, eh?
Getting well too old for it.
I'm already too old.
Oh, I'm struggling right now. It's like we were still there and the cleaner had come in. It was like it's just...
See, I couldn't do that now because Sunday's laundry day, you know. Life's become so routine for me, you know.
Right, I'm going to shut all this down. I mean, this is not going too well. I mean, everything's sort of like back to front here. But...
just tell us what song you're going.
You haven't dropped a twiglet in the mechanism, have you?
Oh, that would be the easier. I mean, everything just bloody goes wrong for me here.
Hark, I hear Smithy.
Yeah, he just said me too.
I didn't realise that was him. I saw some hair, but...
There's got to be some CDs lurking about and you just stick them.
Well, if I knew how to use the bloody thing, that'd be cool. But I'm not... I mean, that's just uploading now, but... So we've got about bloody 8 songs in, and then we're sort of like...
We can do twiglet adverts or something.
Yeah, we've got some Doritos here and all. And...
I've got... Do you like Palmer Vibes?
No, I don't think anyone likes Palmer Vibes.
Good. I'm glad you said that, because
I
was
think
under
it's
that...
some sort of sick joke.
I think that sounds like Nans. Why would you want to...
Yeah, I actually saying that,
sounds like a Nan.
I ain't going to get into that. I'm sure there are some people like that.
Mainly on the internet, but...
Yeah. I've seen the adverts for them. Lonely old women.
So how delicate are you feeling today, Stu?
Not as bad as I was a couple of weeks ago.
You don't look too shabby.
No, I'm
you look alright.
Looking fresh.
I'm just saying that because I've got a good subject today for you.
Oh god. Why am I worried?
It's about flat Earth.
Flat Earthers.
Yeah, I looked up some pretty cool.
Nobbers.
I wouldn't say cool.
See, I've got a fundamental issue with that.
It wouldn't work anyway. That's the fundamental issue.
Well, I don't even know where to begin, really. I mean,
I watched something.
you've got to be like the world's biggest cretin to assume that the Earth is flat. I mean, I don't. I mean, religious people are bad enough, but flat Earthers is beyond.
I watched that on YouTube about if the Earth was like a disc, you could only live in the middle. As soon as you got to the outside, gravity would just pull you inwards. It would be like trying to walk up like a vertical.
No.
There we are. Boring science. But
let us never underestimate
basically.
gravity.
Yeah.
I think that's the core of it.
I mean, do we even know the Wi-Fi code in here? There was a little ticket, but it's gone. Everything seems to have changed. Oh, it's there. It's on the wall.
Well, while we're on that subject, what's the other one? Flat Earthers. Oh, and the conspiracy theorists. Oh,
Mitch is definitely one of them.
No, but anyway, with this flat Earth thing, people were saying, what? Some of these things. Oh, I'll just bring it up here. There was one guy who went in an aeroplane to prove that the Earth was flat by going up an aeroplane with a spirit level.
Genius.
Oh, dairy me. Honestly.
Here are 10 proofs that the Earth is actually flat and not round.
We're waiting.
So... if it would let me.
Isn't the internet a terrible thing? I thought it was going to be such a great thing. I thought it was going to set us all free. And it's just clogged up with flat earthers, conspiracy theorists, Jesus lookalikes.
And porn.
And porn. Let's not forget the
not
porn, yes. Let's drink to that.
Cheers.
So they say you never have to look down to see the horizon, no matter how hard you rise. If Earth was a real globe, you'd have to look down. And they've got like a diagram here of like, if you go sort of round, but they're not sort of... they're taking it into account that like you're on one way up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but they're not going far enough up. Yeah, if you're in the space station.
I mean, I've been out in the Arizona desert and I swore I could see a slight curvature, you know, when you look over the desert plain, because there's nothing to break up the horizon, as it were. But I don't even feel you have to justify why it isn't. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's a waste of energy. And they're a waste of space.
Yeah.
And therein lies the conjunction.
If Earth was really was spherical.
These are Bon Jovi fans, aren't
Helicopters would be able to hover in place and wait for their destinations to come to them.
No, it don't work like that because the atmosphere's moving as well. Oh, can't these people just? Oh, I can't even say it.
And
Just not exist. Yeah.
they?
either way, we'll touch on that again because apparently
They are touched.
this is now sort of believing that it's going to work. So, so Pete, your next song
Yeah.
that you've picked here is The Small Faces.
Oh, well, yeah, where do I begin? Again, like I say, I was born in 65, and thankfully the last time by the Stones was the #1 single that week, so I'm quite happy with that. I can live with that. So I grew up in a household just full of music, you know. I was the youngest of 4, and I remember hearing the Small Faces as a kid, and it always sounded kind of energetic, and I can't explain the actual word for it, but it just sounded like it leapt off the record, you know. Whereas a lot of the 60s stuff was very kind of smooth sounding, very clean surfaces, and you know, like the Searchers and all that kind of crap. It really,
I don't think Steve Marriott needs any sort of introduction.
no,
as a-
indeed
as a
not.
singer.
It's a given, isn't it? But no, like, as a kid, I just remember they just made you want to run around because it just had such an energy to it, you know. And as I got older, I appreciated it more and more and more, to the point where it was like, my God, why aren't these? Whenever I see a 60s documentary, they're never mentioned, you know, and it pains me, you know, it really does, because they deserve a big slot up there, you know.
Do you remember your sort of Small Faces moment?
Yeah, well, as a kid, I was just running around the house, you know, reenacting D-Day or playing with my cars, and it was just there in the background all the time. And
Is there one song
with
Is
electricity?
there one song that stands out that makes you think?
All or Nothing is just like, even as a kid, I knew that was magnificent, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, as I got older, it just made me appreciate it more and more, you know. I mean, I picked this track, which is probably not as well known as, because it wasn't a hit single. I don't think it was even a single. I believe it was an album track, but just want to dedicate it to my unicorn girl.
Okay, so do you want to give the track name and the artist?
Yeah, it's Small Faces, and you better believe it.
And that was The Saints, I'm Stranded. And we had the garage band The Wailers out of our tree. And before that, on Pete's pick, was The Small Faces, You Better Believe. And we're still having Wi-Fi problems in the studio here. I really don't know what to do about that, to be honest.
May I add that the Saints,
How about
what you
Smith,
just
you get
played,
off the Wi-Fi?
because I'm a child of punk, that was, to me, I didn't need Led Zeppelin, that was much more, you know, where I wanted to be, you know.
Yeah.
Sort of accessible and simple, you know, but effective and
So
banging.
Smithy just shouted buy some records, but he has actually left his record collection in here. Just
Oh,
ruin his show.
Let's get his Kiss records. Quick.
What's he got? Is over Butchers?
Yeah. Give me any Kiss
No,
records you
I
find.
won't. I'm gonna ruin it.
So, yeah, struggling a little bit here. Not really sure where to go.
Well, what can we talk about? The greater Bush Fair metropolitan area.
Yeah, it's a hot topic right now. We'll just carry on talking about how well the show's going.
Yeah, we can't load any
Computers
tracks.
never blunder, you know.
Yeah. Just a bit. I don't know. So, I mean, you were saying just then when we played like the Wailers and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
kind of something that you sort of found sort of garage sort of.
Yeah, accidentally, I guess, but yeah. I say by the time I was 18, I was kind of really bored of the punk scene. It got really, really narrow, and it was like joining the army. Really, it was just kind of lost any kind of creativity and ideas. So I was looking for something, you know, desperately looking for something. And I think in that era, what we're talking early 80s, the indie scene wasn't a lot there that took my fancy, you know. And an older guy I know was actually the guitarist at Flux of Pink Indians, Kev Hunter. He turned me on to 60s music, like the obscure stuff, you know, like psychedelia, freak beat, garage music, all the stuff I'd never even heard of, really. And it was fantastic. It just opened up a whole new world for me. You know, I loved Count 5 and the Seeds, and like going around to his place, and he just, I don't know where he sourced these original records from. Them they'd be worth a fortune now, I know, but yeah, he was just turning me on to things all the time and doing me cassettes, which I still have, you know. And through them, I found the love of that British band, The Creation, which again nobody really knows that well.
You got me onto them.
fantastic. I mean, Eddie Phillips, what a great guitarist. He used the bow in '66, but of course Jimmy Page is credited for using the bow first. But you know, it was Eddie Phillips, you know. And John's Children, Mark Bolan's first band.
Oh yeah.
They're like a proto-punk band, you know. They're just, I mean, they put out their last single they ever issued. I think they were signed to Polydor or something. Was a song called "Not the Sort of Girl I'd Like to Take to Bed," which, you know, in its day it was pretty full on, you know. Yeah. They deliberately done it just to upset the record company, I think, and it works. They got dropped, but it's just a wonderful song. No one had the guts to say stuff like that. It was still very much if you're going to San Francisco, you know. And I suppose what I'm saying is there's always outcasts throughout musical history, you know, that are there. They never get anywhere possibly. But for me, they're a great source of comfort because when everyone's sort of hairy-fairy, Larry-hairy, flary, brown music,
yeah,
you know, like I say, I've said to you once before, like when I think of music pre-punk, you know, from my sort of punk mind, I guess, that everything that sounded brown, you know, like elevator music, and you know, but you hear the Stooges, and you know, it's just like, where did that come from? You know, it's
I never knew that when I watched that. Gimme Danger, and they said they sort of rocked up and they sort of heard the MC5 and stuff. So I don't know, you know, was it them or was it, you know, where? Because nothing before that was like that.
I mean, my understanding is MC5 were a garage band. I've heard some recordings from '66, and they're not anything particularly noticeable about them. You know, they sound like many other garage bands of that era. You know, they're all pretty much trying to do Louie and.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's actually made me think of another point that I often like bringing up, and that's the fact that the Americans seem to like to take credit for every kind of musical genre, and it's not true because
no, that ain't just music, man. It's just
well, I know, but in particular with music, I mean, I think that my reality is that America and England are intertwined. Rock and roll turned us on as a nation. We slowly got the hang of it. The Beatles came along and put the new spin on it.
Yeah.
And then obviously they opened the floodgates, and you got the Kinks, the Small Faces, the Who, and everybody. And those bands influenced all the American garage bands. They're all trying to be Mick Jagger, aren't they? If you listen to them, not that they admit that because they think it's so American. But they're all impersonating British beat bands, and that's the spin, isn't it? And somebody adds another spin later, like the Doors come along with a different way of doing things. They put a twist on it. The Stooges come along, and the New York Dolls, and punk came along, added another twist. You know, and I think we're intertwined. I don't think it's like a standoff thing, you know.
Yeah, no,
one inspires the other, you know.
I mean, I was just saying to like that Saints track. I first heard it on sort of skateboard videos when I was sort of around 16 or something like that, and that's what's got me switched on to sort of garage music and stuff like that. So it is like these little valves that you find stuff.
Yeah, it's not a clear cut case. You know, every documentary I watch on punk is it started in America, and it's like, well, no, because but also very, very no, because there's a lot of English influence going on, even with them bands, even though they wouldn't dare to admit it, you know. And it's like every documentary kind of saddens me. I mean, my perspective was the Ramones musically were a massive turn on because it's so accessible, you know. I thought I could just about play that, you know, if I tried really hard, you know. Whereas if I listen to Hendrix, I just go home, you know, because there's absolutely no point even picking the guitar up, really. You just say, I may as well go and be a painter decorator or something, you know. But
I think that's what, there's a few people that sort of find them things when they're growing up. I mean, there's, you know, ample bands that say, you know, from the last 20 years that said they never would have picked up a guitar unless it was sort of for like bands like Oasis, because Oasis was a band that was easy to sort of follow in the footsteps of, like,
which is a wonderful thing, isn't it? Because it gives you a little bit of
hope. Stuff like that,
Sex Pistols. I couldn't play to the Pistols, honestly. When I first picked up a guitar, obviously I wanted to participate in the punk movement. I wanted to be in it, not a spectator, you know. And you know, it's like when you first pick up a guitar. I mean, I was, you know, completely hopeless, you know. And I remember put the Pistols on, and that was just so complicated. I didn't know what was going on, you know. I was like, so I tried the Clash, and that was too complicated. The Damned was too complicated. And when I heard the Ramones, I was like, oh, hang on a minute, I can just about get that, you know. It's that accessibility which obviously Oasis done for you. It's that it gives you hope, you know. That I can do something, you know. I can offer something, you know.
One of the first songs I ever played was Hives.
Ah, yeah. Fantastic.
Hate to say I told you so, actually, on guitar.
I can't even play that now.
I think Seven Nation Army was the first thing I learned to play wrong.
Yeah.
Mine was Wild Thing.
Oh, yeah.
My mate drummed it into me
Oh,
hours
Smoke and Water.
and hours and hours of that. God, I can't even listen to it now. It just reminds me of being frustrated and not being able to play it, you know.
So I've been trying to get this Wi-Fi sorted. Something's going on with it, but I've managed to get one song up here somehow. It's your pick, Pink Floyd, Lucifer.
Oh yeah. Obviously, again, put a disclaimer out straight away. I only like Sid Barrett era Pink Floyd.
Definitely.
I'm not interested in all the.
Definitely.
You know,
Dark Side of the Moon was
stuff,
alright,
and-
but it's just like they never really got it.
I can always remember, you know, I was a teenager when Another Brick in the Wall came out, and I remember saying to a kid in school that was really into him, I said, I really don't need Oxford graduates telling me I don't need an education. You know, it's like, I just had no time for that, you know. But no, Sid Barrett, I love him because I think in the 60s, I mean, you could correct me if you feel differently, but he was the only singer in a British band that sounded English. Because obviously American music was such an influence, you know, like R&B and soul and whatnot. Jagger puts on his Mid-Atlantic, and I dare say the Beatles did to a degree.
Yeah.
Early doors maybe, but there was just something about Sid. He just sounded so English. There's no Americanisms with him. He's very, and just that strange mind of his that just comes out of him.
What did you find of his solo albums?
I really like them. I mean, I found them a bit painful, to be honest, in places, you know. And
I like the track Baby Lemonade.
I like Gigolo Aunt, you know. I probably like all of them to a point, you know.
There's a mad stories about Sid Barrett. I mean, I don't know if you picked up on them over the years. That, you know, he was living in Cambridge and he was wearing day dresses and he lived in this house. He kind of like went off the radar. He got really fat, he was bald and all that, just through all that drug abuse. But they were saying that he was getting sort of fed drugs, be more creative by the rest of the band, and then they sort of outed him and he left. And then he was painting a lot in Cambridge, wearing day dresses, walking around, and this journalist sort of got hold of him and was like, wow, we found him, let's go and do like...
That upsets me greatly, actually, people that used to go hunting for him. Them people deeply upset me.
Well, this is the beauty in it.
It's outrageous to me. Leave the man alone, you know.
This is the beauty in his response to it, because he managed to actually play him at his own game, really. This journalist sort of jumped in and he was like, okay, we'll do an interview, whatever. So he went to the house, and this house, he said it was like jungle inside. I don't know if it was the enemy or something like that, but he wouldn't play ball with him. He went in the house, he said it was floor to ceiling of paintings on the wall, and it was just like a jungle. It was like all potted plants everywhere. And then he sat up, and there was these like 2 chairs in the middle of the living room. You could call it a living room. It looked like the Amazonian forest or something. And so he started to proceed with his questions to Sid, and then Sid just sort of come back with a language that he'd made. So he was like, well, what do you mean? And he was coming back with and he was like, well, we can't do this interview, like, if I don't understand what you're saying. And then he ended up leaving himself. He was just like, you're having me on here, sort of thing. You imagine that, Sid Barrett sitting there, all
I think he
bald
was
and fat,
quite
and then
broken and quite fragile, by then. And like I say, I've even seen on YouTube where people like surreptitiously or secretly filmed him walking down the street. You know, these people should be beaten. You know, it's really disgraceful. It's not right, is it? Really? You know.
So let's drop in with Pink Floyd, Lucifer Sam.
Yeah, I love this track so much. Every time I hear it, it sounds like the first time.
Okay, cool. This is Pink Floyd, Lucifer Sam. And that was Pink Floyd's Lucifer Sam.
And Sid's also a bloody good guitarist, I think. I think that gets overlooked sometimes. I do enjoy his guitar work in that. It's really jagged and, dare I say, punky. But I was going to say to you, Stu, actually, we was just talking about psychedelia. And I think when, in that era, in 67, 68, whatever it was, everyone wanted to replicate an acid trip. You know, everybody had a crack at it. And I'm sure you've heard Satanic Majesty's Request. Songs like that. I listened to that, back in the 80s, and I couldn't get my head around it. I don't know what was going on. I even had trouble with Ogden's Not Gun Flake the first time I heard it, because I was so used to R&B, hard sounding small places, because it's very whimsical, which was part of the deal, I suppose. I remember I had trouble with Ogden's at first, listening to that. I thought,
I don't know about the little sort of bits in between. And
the Stanley Unwin thing's funny at first, and then yeah, I take your point. But no, everyone was trying to replicate an acid trip, and I can't actually say did anyone pull it off because I can't think of one.
No, I was just saying. Like, apparently the Beatles when they come in the studio and like try and record things on drugs, and they come in the next day and just like just look at each other and think, what the hell have we just recorded this?
Yeah, so can you think of one? I seriously can't think of one where they've tried to replicate, say, an acid trip, and you can sit and listen to it as such.
Would you say Dark Side of the Moon?
I've never heard it. Is that one with the clock ticking in it all the time? I remember going to some hippie's house when I was a teenager, and it was dreadful Pink Floyd.
They've got a track called Time, yeah.
Oh, he's going to listen to the clock band. I'm like, God's sake, I'm from Bush Fair. Don't you know I am?
No, we've got Wi-Fi back just for the time being, and so I'm going to take, heed with that. And your next track you've put up is the Sex Pistols.
Yeah. I mean, that's my starting point, I guess, isn't it? And I think the song's quite valid then as it is today, really. But the funny story about buying them on the Bollocks album was I was 12, and I had to save my money to go and get it, And the day came and I went up the town centre, and there used to be a record shop in Post Office Walk called Style Time, and that was the hub of records in Harlow. So I went there so excited, I had the money and everything, and I think it was a case of the album wasn't even displayed. It was like a porno mag, you had to go to the camera and they produce one, And being 12 years old, I guess, the guy actually put the record in 2 carrier bags, because the word bollocks came through with just 1 bag. So he made a point of putting it in 2 bags, and I can't think of any band in history that's got to that point, where you have to cover up the cover in case you upset someone,
Risque. We were kind of talking about this because we watched, after the show last week, we watched Filth and Fury.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's a good film.
And then they talk about them when they was at number 1, and it wasn't...
I saw that with my own eyes,
It wasn't at number 1 that week. And also, a weird part of that film was seeing when they done that sort of charity event thing for the
kids,
the kids were there, and they had like cake with like Never Mind the Bollocks and all that, and the kids were never like, oh, this is the Sex Pistols, and everyone made out that
no one knew, because it doesn't sell newspapers, does it?
No.
And punk probably made me realise how awful our press is, I just accepted it prior to that. I guess it's just whatever, But that really made me realise, well, there's more to this, and because of the media, I mean, I got
but they were switching
plenty of beatings, because the media just drives this hate campaign against you, and walking the streets of Arlo back then weren't a lot of fun, I mean, I've still got scars, from all the hidings I got. Yeah, I was like, a werewolf to them, I had to be hunted down and beaten, just for being in a punk, But,
you think that people would have been sort of put off by it and been like, stay away from the punk?
Yeah, I think there was. I think in some elements, people thought you were some kind of psycho, and they crossed the other side of the street when you were walking down. But more often than not, you just get like, you think you're hard. That'd be the opening line, and you're like, I'm just walking down the street, I'm just going to my friend's house, and it weren't nice. And around about the God Save the Queen time, that's when he got really out of hand, because it really was. You were public enemy number 1.
They were speaking about that in the film.
It was rough. I mean, I was a paper boy in Bush Fair, and I just ordered a God Save the Queen t-shirt out of the back pages of the NME or something or other. And I remember getting it, and I was like thrilled. It's my first punk t-shirt, and a big picture of the Queen, blah blah blah. Pin for a nose or mouth or whatever.
Reed.
The graphic, and I was so thrilled. And when it came up, And I went down to Bump Martin's in Bush Fair to do my paper round, and I had the shirt on, and this guy just walked in, some old fart, that was on his way to work. And he just went Garrity, and the lady that run the shop locked me in the stock room because he wanted to kill me, And it's like John Lydon said, I think, back in the day, to upset so many people, you must be doing something right, because you're touching the nerve, And, But I say, I can remember getting them on Bollocks home, and it honestly sounded like someone threw a hand grenade in my bedroom, because it's just like...
I can imagine that
the jolt was shocking,
Back then, I mean, when I first heard that album, it wasn't...
No, because you heard Metallica before that.
Yeah, we heard music that was...
really hard,
racy and raucous anyway, so it still stood out. It was still a seminal album, in my life, and loads of people that I know that, wow, switched so many, things on for us.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just. I mean, there are criticisms it's overproduced, and there's a lot of piss take on Steve Jones doing multiple guitar dubs on that album, but it just sounds powerful, so I don't see a problem with it.
That's one thing I always loved about the album with Steve Jones guitaring on it.
That's what attracted me right from the off. It's like a wall of it's like Panzer attack
for one guitar.
Yeah.
That's just amazing.
So it always thrilled me. But like I say, I never treat people like gods. I can see their failures as well as their strengths, and
Don't matter being one of them.
No, I like Glenn.
Do you?
I think he's a very Ronnie Laney soulful bass player, and I like to hear him on, in the Pistols tracks. I love his bass lines, but I can see that it was probably not fitting in with what they wanted. They wanted a much harder sound, but
it could be.
I like that.
You could have Sid Vicious as bass player.
Well, there's a track. I can teach you kids something about Sid, right? If you ever see footage of them, depending on how he's strapped his bass on, will tell you if he's going to actually play it or not. If he holds it about waist height, he will play it. If it's on his hip, he ain't going to be playing it. It's a pose.
Ah.
I can tell you that much, boys.
Okay, so let's drop in with the track then.
Liar. And like I say, it's still valid now.
And that was The Eyes, When the Night Falls. Before that, we had Neil Dole's Looking for a Kiss, and from Pete's selection, we had the Sex Pistols' Liar. Still having these issues. Sorry if you're listening in, it's a little bit up in the air today. But we're trudging on because we're British, and
it's me, I'm a Jonah.
So, okay, so we've on your next pick, okay, we'll just talk about that quickly.
Yeah.
We'll go into anything else. I've got Empire up here. I've not heard Empire.
No, most people ain't. When the British punk band Generation X broke up, the guitarist and drummer formed this band Empire. And they were doomed to obscurity, no one knew, no one cared, And ironically, I mean, I loved them when I first heard them, and I was gutted that they didn't follow through, they just fell apart, I guess. Anyway, cut long story short, the weird thing is, on the east coast of America, particularly around the Washington area, they've embraced this album. You've got people like Ian MacKaye out of Fugazi saying this is a fundamentally important album, and I've heard people saying it's the first emo album, which I don't really understand, to be honest with you. I just thought it was a great piece of music, it's not punk, it's not any great thing, and as you know, because I'm, what's the word? Not a Philistine, well, possibly am, but no, because of my punky roots, I've never been one to kind of, get enamoured over a massive guitar solo. It's not something that's a requirement for me to enjoy music,
Sure, yeah.
But this particular track that I chose, I actually like the guitar solo. I can actually sit back and go, God, I really enjoy it every time I hear that guitar solo. So it's there for that reason, I guess, that I like the guitar solo.
I mean, you mentioned Generation X. I've just pulled up the Generation X song that was on your list.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you want to play the Generation X one first or the Empire one first.
I'd like to play the Empire one because, like I say, it's just a great song,
Okay, should we follow on with the Generation X?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, because again, another great band. That they never really broke it either. I don't think.
Okay, so they're linked together.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
at the hip.
So let's hear them both. First, we'll start with Empire. All these things, and Pete, do you want to introduce the Generation X?
Yeah, Generation X track is from their amazing first album. This track called "The Invisible Man." I mean, again, it's a great song, but it's got the most brilliant drum breaking out that I can hear. So I'm trying to be all muso, which is bullshit because
we don't need it.
Because I am such a kind of Neanderthal, musically. But
that's absolutely fine with me. I mean, we're all in the same boat here.
Some of us have got yachts, and some of us have got leaky dinghies.
I see it from.
It's like that picture around on the Playhouse. I hate that. We're all in the same boat, and it's like. Have you seen that?
No,
we're not in the same boat. I certainly am not in a luxury cruiser right now, sipping a martini, am I?
Get that thing from With Now, no. Isn't it?
I feel like I'm
the only thing you've been in the same as me is this fucking bath. Right, Empire, all these things. And that was the Rugby's UI. Before that we had Generation X. What's the song, Pete?
Invisible Man from the first album.
And Empire, all these things. Correct. So we had that sort of little section of Pete's music because we're trying to sort of lob them in before any of this Wi-Fi sort of drops out again. So your next choice up, we have the Pixies. Do you want to talk about these?
Yeah, I stumbled upon them. Well, in fact, actually, I can remember a friend of mine came round and he just got a copy of Bleach. And he thought, I would dig this album. It was good, but I think I heard the Doolittle album literally the week after, and it had more impact on me than Bleach did. I think Bleach actually confused me. I didn't quite understand what it was doing or what it was. It sounded kind of like garage metal, or I don't know. But when I heard Doolittle, I was just thrilled. I'd heard some of their other tracks prior to that, but that was the first album I went out and bought of theirs, Doolittle, and to this day I love it. It's a fantastic album.
It's a good album.
I mean, if you're going to make a pop album, I think that's probably the way to do it,
I just like their setup. I think it's quite nice. It's just in their own realms, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not, she said, I said, I love you. It's on a different plane, and I always got time for people like that, But it's a great album. I like the ebb and flow of it. It's not like a Ramones album where you know what you're getting from track one to the very end. I never was quite sure with Doolittle where the next song's going to go. And that's what I liked.
You get albums that speak to certain people. I mean, I always say that I don't mind an album that has a storyline. From start to finish. But then I don't mind a pop album that is just 2-3 minute pop songs. And I don't mind albums that are very different all the way through. I mean, some people...
from the White Album.
Oh, yeah.
I've never heard of that all the way through, to be honest.
Don't.
I liked Helter Skelter.
You have to take a week off and therapy after. It's so frustrating.
Or become Charles Manson.
Oh, it's so frustrating, mate. It's so... Like we said, was it last week? So it's like 27 tracks or something. 13 of them are great songs. And I call it the Cutting Room Floor album.
I can't believe it. I was listening to Radio 2 once. It was like Terry Wogan. He actually played the whole of Revolution 9. It's like,
is that the talking one?
It's the one that's all...
I don't know what it is.
It's nonsense. It's filler. That's all it is.
Isn't that the point, though? I mean, I find when I find an artist I like, my expectations are never that high. Do you know what I mean? Because I've got a kind of a belief that everything somebody does is going to be magnificent. Everybody has their moments. Some bands, I mean, I know, 10 years back when the indie scene was quite buoyant, I'd listen to some bands, God, that's great, and I check the album out, and I'm like, oh God, I can remember when someone played me The Killers, and I was like, it caught my ear, and I thought, I'm interested, let me hear the album.
Oh, no.
And it sounded like
Poison.
I thought, well, I don't know, I don't get this. Some bands have only got a song in them, some have got a batch of singles in them, some have got an album. But I think second album syndrome is definitely true.
Oh, yeah.
It's in my experience.
I was talking about this the other day. I think it's to do with, the length of time it takes for a band that has started to get picked up, because they've got all of that stuff. Then they put it into
it's
first
their bread and
album.
butter.
And it's all the good bits, So when they get then put on like time frames scales, like a year, maybe 2, produce another album as good as this. They've already had 10 years of going around the clubs knowing what songs work and what songs don't. I mean, you have plenty of artists that are like that. But then you've got I know I keep going back to sort of Noel and Oasis and stuff like that, but the first footage in that Supersonic film, and that I know, is that there's footage of him doing All Around the World in the Boardwalk basement.
Right, okay.
And that arrived on the third album. And they'd done a reprise of it at the end of it as well. So it's kind of like 7... Well, it wasn't 7, it was 4 years after they got picked up. So he had like a big back catalogue he could go back on.
Which you hope all bands have, but clearly they don't.
You get some people that flash in the pan. Look at the 60s garage bands. And then they just sort of pick up and then go away.
I think also the second album syndrome's possibly... one of the issues here is I think the record company puts pressure on them saying, right, we want a second album, and they're quite clearly not ready for it, And I think there's always something suspicious when you hear and I say, I've just spent a year in the studio doing my album. And I'm like, you lazy bastard, what have you been doing? It's like...
Well, I suppose that period we was talking before, and they've got all their good songs as well. They've got that whole period of inspiration, like, not just of hearing other things to create new music, but also they've got experiences. You know what I mean? They've got like the 10 years or so before they got picked up. They've got that whole 10 years of experiences. They wrote songs of things that have happened to them. So then the second album they want, they've only got a gap of a year or maybe two at most, and then they've already been picked up. So what are they going to write about? Being on the road, gigging?
Yeah, because it changes their life experience, I guess. But I mean, I know, like, I was a rabid Clash fan, you know, and I was like, you know, saved my pocket money and my pocketed lunch money my mum would give me just so I could buy records. I was so obsessive, you know, back then. And of course, when I heard the Clash had got a second album come out, I mean, that was it. I was in, you know, hog heaven, you know. Bought it, and it's such a turd, you know. It's it sounds like Mott the Hoople in places. It's so bad, you know. But there's some great tracks on there. Don't get me wrong, but I was gutted, you know. I was like, what is this? You know, they're singing about themselves all the time. It's like, shut up, you know. It's like, so you got coke habits, you know.
Talking about Mott the Hoople, did you see you know, are you on Instagram? I don't know.
No, you know, I'm not quite a Luddite, but slightly Luddite. You know?
Well, Steve Jones, we was talking about earlier, he's got like his own Instagram account. It's called Jones's Jukebox.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
It's so funny. And he's done this video on there where he's got like this silver boot from the guy from Mott the Hoople or something.
Oh, right.
And he's talking about these rock and roll diaries, and he starts talking as a woman. I wish I could pluck a phone into.
I love Jonesy, he's a funny guy.
He's basically saying that he waxed the geezer's chest and in payment he just took this boot without him knowing, because he was quite well known for pinching things from time to time.
I read his biography actually the other week, and all I can say is the only time I've ever read a book that made me laugh so
Lonely
much.
Boy one.
Yeah. I was laying on the sofa reading it one Saturday afternoon, like, you know. I actually nearly fell off the sofa because I was crying of laughter so hard. And the only books that make me do that are Spike Milligan books normally. And Jonesy had me in tears. I can't obviously recount what it was because it's, you know, quite obscene. But honestly, I couldn't hold the book up. I was crying. I could not stop laughing.
He's very funny, isn't he, with his words.
Oh, you know, he's a right ragamuffin. You know, he's like a Victorian Oliver Twist kind of character. You know,
he just don't care now. I mean, I don't think he did.
He deserves his place, you know. He done what he done.
I love him. I love the fact when he was talking about we're going back to David Bowie now, and he said about when they done their farewell tour.
Oh, yeah.
And he had his the roadie had fallen asleep in the front row at the Hammersmith Odeon, and then they snuck in, nicked all the gear from the Spiders from Mars. So you know.
Well, I can tell you an actual story I heard. I used to rehearse at this place, and the guy that ran it was the sax player for the Screaming Lord Sutch band, which, you know, impressed the hell out of me because I like Screaming Lord Sutch. He's the original Alice Cooper.
Yeah,
you know?
I'd say that. Yeah,
you know. And anyway, we were talking one day, and I said to him, "Were you in Sutch's band? You know, in the 70s?" He went, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Well, you must have played with the Sex Pistols because I read once that they supported Screaming Lord Sutch in High Wycombe or something like that." You know. He went, "Oh, yeah, don't tell me about them." And I went, "Oh, what happened?" He said, "Well," he goes, "nothing really happened as such." He said, "We were just about getting ready to go on stage. And one of our roadies said, 'You better come out in the car park. That band, the Sex Pistols, they're in the back of our van trying to nick the equipment.'"
Oh, amazing.
So, you know, and I've heard Steve Jones is very light-fingered, obviously.
Yeah, I think they try and pick up on that in that vinyl HBO series. Right. They're in the guitar shop. Mick Jagger's son plays this guy who's in a band called Nasty Bits, and he goes into like a guitar shop, and he's playing the guitar, and there's another guy there playing guitar, and he says, "Oh, I've got this in the rosewood neck." He said, "Oh yeah, check out the back." And the guy playing the guitar opposite him says, "Do you hear what you just said?" He said, "Oh yeah, check out the back." He said, "No, nick me." Basically steal from me. So they run out the shop with the guitar, and he's running down the road, and then they sort of run all the way down, and then they sort of get into this little area where people are hanging there washing. He's like, "What's wrong with you? Why are you following me?" He said, "Do you want to be in a band?" sort of thing. It's brilliant. I do love that. So
well, I did see an interview with Jonesy the other week, and he actually made a point. It was in reference to the Lonely Boy book, and he actually said that the amount of stealing he'd done, he said he couldn't obviously write it all in the book.
Yeah.
And he's actually made a point of paying people back. I think he robbed 10cc's guitar or something, and all these years later he suddenly feels guilty about it, and he actually met the guy. I can't remember the guy's name now, and
good on him.
He settled it. He said, "I've settled the thing." But he didn't actually tell you everything he's nicked, because he's obviously done a hell of a lot, you know.
He's sort of living out in LA now or something.
Yeah.
So he's
a great guy. Like he's very
If you've not got him on Instagram, go and follow Jonesy's Jukebox. It's absolutely hilarious. He's sort of like a big guy now. I know he struggles with his weight and that, but he's always dressing up in like Elvis suits. He's got a flying V.
I know he started whistling, which is a bit irritating. I wish he'd stop that.
He's. But he don't have a perm anymore, so.
He really. That was the thing, though. I mean, obviously, being a very what's the word? Seduced teenager by punk. I always looked at the Pistols. I thought, God, his hair's terrible. He looks like Leo Sayer. Have a word, but.
Right, I know, like, I was sort of listening back to some shows the other day, and I started out the show and I said, it's not about the talk, it's all about the music. And then the more and more that we've gone on, we've sort of just like talk, which I don't mind actually now, because it is good. It's good to sort of talk about music and then also express what we feel about music and maybe put some ideas and opinions out there to other people to get them talking, because we've had people talking in and stuff like that. So, but right now, I'm going to just drop into your pick.
Yeah.
So it's Pixies and what's the song?
Waive of Mutilation, I believe.
Thank you very much.
Which is a killer.
And that was the Pixies' Waive of Mutilation. From
The greatest surf song ever written.
From Pete Doff's pick. I mean, I've just come back in here because we're sort of drawing to a close of the show. I mean, we've got Adam Smith's Black Wax on at 5. We've got like just under 15 minutes left. So we're not having any sort of Wi-Fi problems as such, touch wood. So I wanted to come in just to do this little segment just for this singer, because this week Chris Cornell passed away, and that was tragic. It's really, really bad. I mean, I've seen all the tributes and that come in from him all over the week, and the day that we found out that he died, it got progressively worse when we found out sort of he took his own life, and it's quite sad about all that. So I mean, I spent all day listening to his music that day. I've been a big fan. I remember listening to Black Hole Sun for the first time, seeing a video, which was crazy. Do you remember that, Stu?
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
I can't say it's a brilliant video or a terrible video.
Well, for 97, that's pretty good. It took me back. It took me back anyway, hearing it again. Soundgarden were great. Chris Cornell, even as a solo artist, he done one of the best Bond theme tunes I've ever heard.
Audio Slave as well.
And Audio Slave, Co-Cheese. I always wanted to come out if I was a boxer.
Exactly, a boxing theme, yeah.
Yeah, it just pumps me.
Right.
But anyway, just quickly, I just want to chuck this one in before we finish up on the show later. Simply because of the vocal is amazing. So I know loads of people have been listening to him this week, so hopefully you haven't heard this, but if you have, you'll enjoy it anyway. So this one is Chris Cornell's Black Hole Sun Acoustic. And that's how you sing, basically. With Chris Cornell. I mean, people disagree. I'm not sure.
I say, the poor guy, so I'm not sure.
It is a massive loss to the music world. So that speaks for itself. Black Hole Sun by Chris Cornell. Soundgarden. Audio Slave. Drawing up to a close to the show, we're going to have this one song and then come out, drop back in and say goodbye, and then go out with your last song. But your second from last song, it surprised me actually. We've got, it blew my mind that you've picked this band. I've not heard the song, so this is We Are Scientists. So do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, as I was just saying to Stu, I think 2003 to 2004, I suddenly noticed there's some really good indie music coming out of the country, Arctic Monkeys and...
yeah.
I know We're Something's American, I think, but no, I found a lot of music in that period, Libertines, and I was thrilled. For me, it was almost like going through the punk thing again. I was like, wow, and every week I was finding another new band to check out, and it was like punk all over again. I was so thrilled, and and these were a big part of what I heard. I thought, I love this, particularly the drumming on it. I was just blown away, really good. I mean, there's elements of punk, I guess, but there's much more in it, I like the pop element, the hookiness and the catchiness.
This might have to be the last one. I was looking at the time, so
this is We Are Scientists and The Great Escape.
And that was We Are Scientists with The Great Escape.
Great track.
You wanted to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you very much for inviting me on and polluting the airwaves.
Sorry it was all a bit sort of all over.
I'm into chaos and anarchy, so it's all
we just sort of chatted for 2 hours.
Yeah, if you like. But I have to say though, being with you two guys, it makes me realise I haven't got my Warlock with me. You two are a double act. You're the Jagger Richards. And I'm on me Jack Jones here because Warlock ain't here, so it's a shout out to him.
Join the group of idiots.
Mate, I'm just hanging on to his coattails.
But if you're listening, Warlock, I miss you, mate.
Oh, that was
not in a sexual way, really.
Really,
more with his sort of smell.
That T-shirt you're wearing at the moment, mate.
Yeah. Luckily, we're not being filmed at the moment.
We might introduce that. We might introduce the Facebook Live thing, so you won't sort of.
Let me know, and I'll change my T-shirt. Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Considering we sort of stumbled on and off of Wi-Fi the whole 2 hours.
No, you done good, Mitch. Putting up with me as well,
Thank
mate.
you very
Well
much,
done.
mate. British. That's what we do.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
So we're on next week, 3 to 5, as always, with Glass Onion Radio. Up next in 1 minute is Adam Smith's Black Wax. So I'll see you guys later.
Is that Adam Smith's hair wax?
Stick around.
Thank you very much, mate. See you later, Queen.
Adios, amigos.